Hello and welcome to Conversations from the A&amp podcast. In this episode, I speak to solo adopter Ramsey. He shares his journey to adoption and the experience of travelling through it on his own. As always, if you've experience of adoption, fostering or special guardianship from any perspective, personal or professional, and would like to share that on the podcast, please get in touch through the Facebook page or you can email us at aandfpodcast@gmail.com.
I'm Ramsey, solo male adopter, who has adopted a wonderful, young, happy little boy recently. So that was late last year. So it's coming up to a year now.
That's you.
That's me. That's how I would describe myself at the moment.
So, I mean, a start question to sort of get into your story really is, you are, it remains unusual, solo male adopters. So can you sort of tell us what brought you to the door of adoption?
Yeah, it is something I'd always considered. I knew I always wanted kids. I tried a couple of relationships that didn't substantial, but didn't go very far. And it came to, I think, a point in my life where I said, right, decision time. Try again or start a family. And that's not to say relationships won't happen in the future. They obviously can, hopefully will. Decided was the time before I got too old. And so I made an inquiry. Funny enough, it happened in a funny way. So I purchased my first property, my first home, should I say, and moved in. It was a flat in the middle of a city centre. Moved in, and furnished the place, got everything done, happy. Finished work on a Friday once, laid down on the sofa thinking, what's left to do? There's I think I've done everything now. I'm happy. I moved in. There's only one little lamp that I need, just that needs to go under the TV that I really want to get, and that's it. And I sat down and I was like, right, that's a huge step in my life. I'm really happy now, and kind of what next? And I thought, just light bulb moment. I finally got my own place. I can start a family now. And that's when I pulled my laptop out and just searched, adoption straight away and started reading about it and looking into it. So that's how it started really. And today, but yeah, go on.
No, I mean, just a sort of a simple question really is, you do that, you Google search adoption, and what do you find, and what are the steps you take from there? Because, a lot of people sort of, where do you go? Who do you choose if there are options?
Yeah, it's a good question. And then obviously Google's a natural thing. Funny enough, I had, and this came up during my adoption assessment, I'd looked into fostering, a while back, 7 years before I did start the adoption journey when I was working from home. So I started working from home before COVID, and I had this was when I was in kind of a shared family, not shared family. It was a jointly owned family home, but I was the only one living there. And I had the spare bedroom, and I started working. I was working from home, and I thought, you know what, there's I could really help. Young teenagers with that need a place to stay, help them with their education, really support them, and that would be a great experience for me eventually when I do become a parent. So that was the intention of doing it, and I had before Googled, fostering in the area, got in touch with the agencies, and a couple replied straight back saying, "Oh, you're in full-time work. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't foster."
Right.
Simple as that. So it was a bit of okay, but I work from home. I'm always home, and obviously now you understand their reasoning. It's a full-time thing. You need to be available to move, go, drop off, adapt to the circumstances basically. So I was familiar with that kind of. I'm happy to kind of Google, and I did. Can't remember exactly what popped up, but I'm sure I read a bit about adoption as an individual, like one person, not a couple. Adoption as a solo gay male. So and how can you adopt? What are the agencies and stuff like that? And then obviously found out my regional agency and inquired basically.
Right.
Dropped an email And then obviously the process starts from then. So I received an email back saying, "Yeah, let's have a telephone conversation." So this was coming out to the end of COVID, so they still
Right.
were applying a lot of the what they were doing during the COVID period. So I started in April, no, in May 21 was when I
Right.
first inquired, and then the first conversation started around June 2021. So I had a telephone conversation, which then informed me about the process, and obviously starting, before we even start stage one, we'll have a conversation. So I had a Teams call with someone from the agency who, again, very, very similar to your question, why adoption? Why now? What are your reasons? Blah, blah, blah. A bit about me. Very, very, very interesting call. Lovely lady from the adoption agency. Very easy to talk to. Felt very comfortable with that. It was brilliant. And yeah, she mentioned she's going to write a report based on that conversation, which she then shared with me, I believe, as well. And yeah, that went on to someone within the agency to approve me to go to formally start the process, basically
Yeah.
to start stage one. So that's when that happened, and then obviously the realization, yeah, this is becoming real. This journey's starting. So yeah, and then during that time is when I just you start searching, you start reading, googling, what's it going to be like, similar experiences,
Mm.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I've started stage one. Got assigned a social worker who did I meet? No, yeah, sent loads of forms around through email, sorry, and then we had a conversation. She came around to the flat, so I was in a two-bedroom flat at the time in the heart of city centre, and yeah, it was a interesting experience. Not to spoil, I'm sure you've seen Lost Boys and Fairies but not to
Yeah.
spoil it to and anyone listening. But it's obviously it's about adoption, and obviously there's a social worker involved. I don't think I've told this to my social worker yet because we still do talk, and she's very much like the social worker in there. Just sat down, crossed the legs, put a notepad down, and go right. So why adoption? And yeah, had a nosy around the flat, very similar. Yeah, commenting on stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, um, we had a good conversation, just about why do you want to adopt, and it's the yeah I've always thought about it, lots to offer, the whole
Yeah.
the whole thing, it's just a natural feeling, which is then you have to put in words somehow for the sake for the assessment, which thankfully I managed to do somehow. And yeah, it was what I really liked about my social worker was that she sat there and went, "So let me get this right. Solo, gay male, two-bedroom flat, middle of the city centre, looking to adopt. You're not making it easy." Or something along those lines.
Well,
Yeah, no, in a good way. She went, "But you've got a trump card," she said, and that's like you're not white. And I was like, "Way, non-white privilege for the first time."
that
Kind of
feels
really,
like a really interesting conversation in terms of like
yeah,
leaning into some stereotypes about about gay
absolutely.
men,
Yeah.
leaning into and then like reverse stereotypes about diversity
Hmm.
quotas. Because I was thinking, you said you started to research like adoption. Uh,
Yeah.
I- I'm sort of intrigued to think, did you see anywhere that kind of reflected your story, in terms of even just a single man, solo man, male adopter?
No, there was one story on the BBC about someone who did it in Scotland. I remember that. Um, there were a couple of podcasts about a gay dad in London who had 3 or 4 episodes at the time. Maybe that's evolved since then. But no real representation. For myself, so I'm mixed race, so I'm half Arab, half Asian.
Right.
Born in the UK. Grew up abroad, but then returned to the UK. So left the UK when I was young, and then moved back. So um, no real representation. No, grew up in a Muslim household. So no repres very little representation of solo gay male adopters, but solo gay male adopters of whatever the correct phrase of saying it now is be it BAME. I don't know if that's used now or
Yeah.
um, minorities or
Yeah.
diverse or come on, Al, help support me here. What's the right way? Don't just look at
Um,
me and nod.
oh no, no, no. I mean, it's a white middle-aged man. I'm on safe ground talking about myself, but I'm not going to be floating out language for you. About to
um,
lose my registration. I guess, but I guess what we know is that in terms of the statistics is that you are hugely underrepresented as an individual. But you're an individual. You're a person. You're not a tick box exercise. So I'm surprised the social worker said that to you.
I think it was brilliant. I think it was, we had an honest conversation. I think a lot of things going into it as a gay male is, would you be selected to adopt a child? And the word out there is you are placed, and I've heard, conversations about this many a time. It's usually the old harder to place children,
Right.
the older children. So, if a family finder was put in a scenario where you have, heterosexual couple, gay couple, homosexual couple, which way would they lean? There's no, and I don't know. We have to look at the numbers to decide that, So I think
Yeah.
that plays on your mind, definitely. If there's a child out there with 10 applicants is the wrong word, 10, what are they called? Prospective adopters. Let's go with
Yeah.
that. Prospective adopters. What are the statistics showing in terms of adoption? And yeah,
Well, yeah.
um,
Are there statistics even?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I think you do come loaded with that, and that's part of, and this is why we're here, to, as researching, looking into it, trying to find stories, understanding what it's all about. There was a lack of representation, and I did come across your podcast. Obviously shared this when I first got in touch with you that, I've listened to various episodes and it's really supported me through the journey in terms of learning about all aspects of adoption and fostering from, the adoptees' point of view, the adopters, professionals, be it the, social workers, the agencies, the politics involved, the legal side, stories from birth parents. Every episode's just been, wow, this is a whole world I'm entering into.
Yeah.
And even though they're different cases, different, people, but there are themes running through it that are very, very similar. So it's definitely helped my understanding. And yeah, it's been every time I've had a trip, it'll be, find the next podcast and put it on. And it's really helped me. So I thought, fantastic. And I will reach out eventually. I just waited until it was finally official. So yeah, I adopted my little boy last year, but it's only recently where the adoption orders come through and,
Right.
we're stuff. So hence why reaching out. So yeah, I did wish that there was more out there that I could have heard and seen, and hence why I'm sharing in the hope that,
Yeah.
someone with an inkling of, maybe I'd like to start a family, looking at adopting and what's it like. And I'll be honest, I'll say how it's gone and what it's like. And, so yeah, that's
Well,
what
tell me
I've,
then.
yeah.
No, no, that's really helpful. Thank you, and it's flattering to that you've listened. But in terms of then you starting this process, then going through as a solo applicant with all of this kind of other sort of like feeling like you're charting and uncharted territory. So how did you find the assessment process? Because it is, it's intrusive, it's in depth, it's some people love it, some people not so sure. How did
I,
you
I,
find it?
I did enjoy it.
Right.
It was frustrating at times. I did enjoy it. I liked that it took a while. And there was part of me that wanted it, when you listen to the time frames, it goes stage one should take between on average takes between so and so many months, and then stage two takes between so and so many months.
Yeah.
But mine maybe it took a year, and I think that's
Right.
that's a good time frame. From the moment I applied to my panel date was May the following year, I believe, or yeah, May or June. Yeah, it took around a year, and I think that was I enjoyed that because it was, yeah, it's a big decision. It's a big life decision. So the longer it took, the longer it
Yeah.
was sitting with me, the longer I was processing it. That this is what I'm planning on doing. Is this the right decision? You still have, obviously you're going through the process. You have those doubts. So I did enjoy that. It took a lot of time, as a lot of people are familiar with. It's a very intrusive process. So you go through everything.
Yeah.
Stage one, I received obviously all the forms to fill in. There's, I'll touch on stage one because a few things, and I did leave this feedback back to the agency in terms of the medical, and I'll come to that. But stage one, I think the main form is the one about you.
Yeah.
Why are you looking to adopt? Do you touch a bit about your background? What kind of parent would you be? And you touch on stuff like that, and yeah, it's quite a long form. Was it 8 or 9 pages? And by the time I finished with it, it was around 22, 30 pages. And I think that was the only time my social worker actually chased me for something. And it's always the other way around, you chasing your social worker
Yeah.
for stuff. But my social worker said, have you finished your form? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm still completing. It's quite long and it's quite lengthy. And then I submitted it and she went, whoa, you've gone to town on this form. And I was like, well, those are the questions. So I respond, she goes, this is brilliant. This is brilliant for stage two. There's loads there and we'll discuss. I said, okay, great. But I didn't, you're applying to adopt a child and then all these questions respond. And I put, apparently I responded in a lot of detail, which my social worker loved, which was great. But the kind of reaction was, well, you probably didn't need to go to that level of detail. So, okay. But that's a lengthy form about, everything about you, your family, and why do you want to adopt, and what kind of parent will you be? What are 5 happy memories from your childhood? What are memories that you didn't like from your childhood? And just trying to remember what was in that form. And then obviously there's a financial assessment. You do your DBS, you do the training, which was brilliant. On the training, it was a 3-day workshop with the agency, and you meet a lot of prospective adopters there as well who are in a similar process to yourself. There was a mixture of people on there, diverse, and it was great. One thing I noticed about the videos that they did, so they share videos on the call of real adopters, real birth parents as well, and with the real adopters talking about the process of why they adopted. I found it really interesting, and I made this comment as well, that for the heterosexual couples there, it was their story, typically, not in all cases, but on average, was the natural, sequence of we tried having a child, be it the male part or the female part, we couldn't. We then moved on to IVF. We tried, we failed, so we've landed on adoption, and that were repeated a couple of times. And when it came to the homosexual couples or the solo adopters, the solo adopters, regardless of sexuality, or the homosexual couples, that was their first choice of adoption. And you'd see the difference in just that, I want to start a family and I wanted to adopt. And it's just saying, whereas on the other side, it was, we landed on adoption. And I just found that really, really interesting. And I discussed it with my social worker. Sorry, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
No. I was just agreeing with you. It is a really, it's this really clear distinction, which sort of, you're very they're not just slightly similar. They're very different. They're not, but they end up in the same place.
Yeah. And I shared that with my social workers, and she goes, absolutely. And, we were in the middle of stage one, and she openly shared, without sharing names or people, obviously, she just said we do reject people at stage one who haven't left enough time between, grieving that they can't have, a birth child, or tried IVF, and then they move to adoption and stuff. So I just found that really, really interesting in the video workshops that we did. So you do your training, and then the medical, fill in your medical was one of the aspects. Now I was really apprehensive of this because, again, going into it, so I was on antidepressants at the time. So I rocked back and forth on the medication, and it started when I was at a really weird stage in my life where everything had come to a complete stop. So I finished. I'd been in education a while. I'd finished. My mum passed away, and I'd finished administering the estate, and I was applying for jobs. Brexit happened, couldn't get a job, and it was a 6-month period of, not for the first time in my life, of nothing. So it was a really kind of low point, and resisted medication, but decided to start. It obviously really helped me, and it was great. But I had this not stigma, I had this fear that it would be obviously held against me. But obviously I applied, and I was happy to obviously share that. Obviously, we're you're going through your medical, but that wasn't the point I wanted to raise about the medical. The point I wanted to raise about the medical was I got told you need to fill in this, you need to do your medical, go to your GP. Went to my GP. Oh, we stopped doing adoption medicals are private. They're classed as private appointments. We don't do those anymore. We stopped. So it's like, okay, what can I do? You'll have to go private. Someone's like, okay, found a couple of private clinics in the city. Yeah, sorry, we don't do them anymore. We don't do that. So I asked my social worker, can you provide a list of places that'll do it? And he goes, well, I know one in London that'll do it. And I was like, well, I don't really want to track all the way down to, is there anywhere local? I was like, well, and the response I got was, you just kind of going to have to keep on searching, try other surgeries. It's like, okay, tried a number of surgeries. Oh, yeah, we do it, but it's only for our patients. So you'll have to transfer here and then we'll do it for you. It's like, oh, that's a bit of it, just to say, oh, I'm with my surgery. Okay. Kept trying. No, went back to my agency. I was like, I'm struggling. Can you just give me a name of somewhere that'll do this privately? Yeah. Just keep trying. Finally found a GP surgery somewhere on the outskirts of Birmingham that would do it. And they said, yes, if you transfer your GP records or get a summary of your GP records, which would then take 21 days to get, come over here, book an appointment, we'll do it. And this was after like 2 months of searching. Granted, I probably could have been more active in searching, but you're working full time as well at the same time and stuff like that. You just give me a list of places that'll do this in the region. And I have left this feedback to them, in terms of a bit more support in finding this. When I did get in touch with my GP to say, can I get my medical records transferred? They said, oh, we are starting the service again, but there will be a 4 to 6 week waiting list. But I was like, I'll probably wait that rather than getting my records, which will take 21 days and then driving all the way there. So I did do that eventually, but that's when I really felt, come on, guys, everyone does this. Can you not just have a list of places to go to help people? Because even the ones when they did mention a couple of names, I went there and they said, oh yeah, we don't do that anymore. So I found that really surprising. It's a minor hiccup in the major scheme of things, but I just thought, that's a bit weird.
So how did you find, I mean, like you said, there's a level of bureaucracy that's sort of front loaded, isn't there, in terms of trying to find, anything that's going to trip the process up. But then it moves on to this kind of quite analytical sort of tooth comb through your life and experiences. How did you find that? I mean, having just met you feel like a really open and comfortable in sort of person. So was that easy, or was it?
It wasn't. It did. It was great. It was therapeutic. May I say the word? I think arguably my social worker knows me better than anyone on this planet at the moment, I think. So in my case, and I think it's worth sharing, and that's why one of the reasons I reached out is I do find I have to pinch myself sometimes that this has actually happened. So I'm living. I've moved to a house now, and we'll come to that, but because it's really important about when it got to the matching stage about not having a house and being in a flat. But anyway, just living in a flat, no family in the city as well. So in terms of support network, no family, no parents even around, so that was, in terms of support network, that was really, we touched on support network as a single adopter, solo adopter. I prefer the term solo adopter. That we touched on that a lot. But look, it's happened. I'm here. A little boy sleeping in the next room, so it has happened. That's why I pinch myself sometimes, because I really thought at the start of this journey that it wasn't going to happen. I'd rushed to send an email and start the process. But on going through it, it's like, there's so many missing fields or items here that it's just not going to happen. But the second part, stage 2, was in depth. So 8 to 10 sessions of, that lasted between 2 and 3 hours. But my social worker, I think, got me. She understood me. She'd repeat things that I said in a different tone later on when we recalled on stuff, when we would talk about a different topic. But, she'd repeat something, but you don't do that because that's your view on things. I was like, you get me. That's it. You're
You've been listening.
absolutely onto. You've been listening, but you absolutely not just listening, but you process it. You understand what I'm like. Yeah, exactly. So that's why, even though there were frustrations about how long it was taking, but when I reflected back on that, I was like, I'm actually quite happy it's taking this long because I'm processing a lot of information.
Because I was going to ask you about that. I was thinking that as a solo applicant, I was thinking that is is it a lonely journey in the terms of you're on your own and you're going through this, and were there people around you who you could kind of go, well, we did this week and we were talking about this, but sometimes that's not necessarily appropriate, is it? So it's quite, was it an isolating sort of experience, or was it not, maybe overthinking?
No, it was, I didn't feel isolating, but it was something I was doing on my own anyway. So I didn't feel like, there was, obviously I have a support network, and obviously the questions always came, how's it going? I always related it to doing a PhD. That's why I was in education for so long, is because there are so many small milestones. And the worst thing you can ask a PhD student is, oh, how's it going? Or when are you going to finish? Because there's so many of these. And it's the same with, like, you've got your matching, you get matched, and then there's the panel date, and then there's all of these small little milestones they hit. So they're all little celebrations, but there's never that big one. But to answer your question, there were times, probably, yes. But it's a lot of processing. I didn't feel like I need to talk to someone about this. It was all it was all internal, trying to process things and understand and feel like this was the right step for me, basically. So
you went to panel. What was the experience? Some people find it terrifying. Some people love it.
It was, obviously the nerves are there. And the panel was great. Very, very supportive. You do get the questions in advance. I got my questions on the morning of the panel rather than a couple of days before that they promised. But no, it did go really well. They were really positive about a couple of things, and one was that I was very clear from what from all what I'd learned about it, was that the child's story is their story. It's not. I'm very, very clear about, it's a very natural question. Oh, my son's adopted, or the child's adopted. Oh, okay. Why are they adopted? What happened? And why it does come eventually. I think if it's not the first, it's a very natural question, I suppose.
Yeah.
But for me, it's very, very, that's their life story. I'm the only one that knows. And it's their story to share when they're ready. So even my family, my siblings don't know. It's not for them to know, unless there's something very, very specific, if it comes to anything that they do. But at the moment, no. Not that I hope there won't be, but there isn't. It's not their story. It's his story. And I was very adamant about that. I was very clear about that, and panel picked up on that, and they found that they were kind of glad that I had that view in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just they touched on support network, because obviously that was that's the number one flag when it a thingy. They didn't touch on living in a flat during panel, but that came a bit later. We'll come to that when it comes to the matching, I think. But yeah, that was panel, and then got approved.
That's good news.
Yeah.
So that often people, people sort of describe sometimes that feels like you, after all that really intense pressure cooker of getting to panel, and then you're approved. So you fall off that process and you're into a new one. And so what were you approved for, and kind of what was the experience of matching for you?
Yeah, good question. So in during my assessments, you obviously discuss what you're looking for in a way, or be it gender, age. So I was open to in terms of gender. I was in terms of age range. When I initially started the process, you get asked that immediately, I think, and I said between 2 and 4. So I was very clear that I am a working professional who's taking time off for parental leave, and I will eventually have to go back to full-time work. So a newborn wouldn't be the right, I think, life decision. It'd just be too difficult. So I opted for 2 to 4. I thought that was a good age range. There is obviously the common knowledge that the older the child, the more the trauma, I think is the common phrase. Not that it doesn't mean that I wouldn't consider below 2 or above 4, absolutely. But that was what I initially set out. During the process, I actually joined a coffee call in one of the social groups. And I actually was, it was just a one-to-one. So there was only other person that joined, who was one of the founders, if not the founder of the group. And just, discussed that in the middle of the processes and that. And he asked me, what age range are you going for? And I said, 2 to 4. And he actually, whoa, why? Can I just challenge you on that? Why have you set out 2 to 4? And I said, oh, okay. And I gave perhaps the same reason I've just given here. He goes, have a think about it. A lot of people kind of box themselves to think, you're only going to get approved. Is that really what you want? Or have you come in with a preconceived or preconditioned mindset that you're only going to get approved for 2 to 4? You're not going to get approved for a newborn because you're a solo male adopter.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know. It's difficult to answer you that on the spot, because go away and have a think about it. And I did think about it, and I thought, is there any truth in that? Have I really conditioned myself to think I'm not going to get approved for a newborn? Would I want a newborn? Yeah. And that's when I actually thought, I've never really asked myself the question, do I want not a newborn, but somewhere between, and eventually from asking those questions and discussing it, I learned that on average it's either, with children that get adopted, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's either from birth, where the social services are involved kind of pre-birth, and they're aware, and then obviously staying, or it then gets, social services then get involved, and then obviously it's drawn out. So it's then a 10-month period or 11-month period, then the child gets, so it's either from birth or then there's a big jump. It's very rare to be in the 2-month, 3-month or 4-month period, from what I've heard. But anyway, I kind of thought about it. I was like, why? And I just discussing on that call, I was like, but what about, going back to school, going to work, and there's nursery, there's care, and there's ways. And I did think about it, and I wasn't sure was the answer. I did reflect honestly, and I really wasn't sure. And in discussion with my social worker, we actually extended the range just 6 months to 3 years. So I got approved for 6 months to 3 years. At panel. It did so happen that I did adopt in the age range between 2 to 4, which we'll come to, I think, when we now talk about how life is, and I do reflect, and I think actually I am probably happier that it's been in the 2 to 4 region than younger, being honest about how intense it is, but then again you still make it work, I think, if it was younger, so it's hard to say.
Do you think that, I mean, in some ways, that's a really interesting question about what, as a solo male gay adopter, that there is that sense of your choice is limited. What choice? We're not buying tins of beans, but you know what I mean, in terms of what you will be accepted for, is limited because of those aspects, and people will sort of. And you're not in a position to necessarily push back against that because of those limitations. Is that part of it, really? That it is interesting to think about that and people's experiences, really.
Yeah, I was told pretty early on as well that one of the core or the principles is that in the matching phase, they look to match ethnicities together. So right. That for me was that it opened the door of that I'm not going to be limited. So I suppose it's a good question if you're a solo gay male white adopter.
Right.
Would that then be really, really difficult in terms of your choices, or not being pushed into the harder to adopt, harder to place children, which are usually the ones with complex needs or the older children. That I suppose that's a good question. And did I have that trump card being non-white, and with them, with the principle being, would they prefer to match ethnicity together? true, it would be very. I think I did mention this when we were discussing that. I was like, well, if you can find an exact match to my mixed race ethnicity, then that would be a miracle. But it's the principle, I think, of, for me, and that was my strength, is recognizing the importance of understanding both identities, and to developing, your sense of self, and how important that was. And we discussed that at length in stage 2. And that's where I was very clear on a mixed race child. I would adopt a non-white. I was open to adopting a non-white child of one culture or one ethnicity, so to speak, but it wasn't top of the list. It would have been, a mixed race child of any kind of combination, depending. It'd be on a case by case basis. You then take it, don't you?
So that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think that being mixed is very specific, isn't it, in terms of holding those dual ethnicities or cultures and faiths or nationalities. That, like you say, the being mixed is kind of maybe the core component. I say this as a transracial adopter of mixed children.
Mm-hmm.
That mixed is the. But I'm also conscious as well, in terms of trying to find the perfect, perfect match. Again, we're not being color matching.
Yeah.
But interesting that I say that, but it's quite Freudian. In that some of the research around matching is often down to your skin tone, in terms of But again, is it kind of a white centric system? Within the workforce, within the communities, it just feels like an issue that really the system hasn't quite got its head around. But
yeah.
So did you find then that you were, in that matching process then, that there were children that would kind of meet your criteria or kind of would slot into what you felt comfortable and sort of?
Yeah. So, I mean, I touched on my background. So I'm half Arab, half Asian, born in the UK. Yes, I grew up, and then it comes to kind of environment. I grew up abroad and then moved back to the UK. And it's always been, when you tick ethnicities, you tick that drop down box and you look at, and there is mixed, yes, but it's always other, because there's never Arab and Asian. So you always tick in. Now there is mixed other. It's evolved to the mixed other.
Yeah.
But before it was, you couldn't select any of the mixed because it was mixed white and Asian, mixed white and black, mixed. So I'd go to other. So yeah. When it came to the matching phase, yes, there were a few mixed race children, just to talk about the matching phase. So I started the matching phase, obviously. So we're talking May, June 2022. Started the matching phase for about a month. You stay local, don't you? You're with your regional agency for about 3 months. I was told as soon as a panel, congratulations, fantastic. Next topic, matching. There are no children at the moment in the system that are a good match. Okay. Yeah. But obviously these things take time. You're still at the high point of being approved and stuff. Actually, a funny situation, not funny, I don't know why I used the word funny, but I decided to move jobs. So that was a big decision because I got offered a position, but I knew that moving would then have a big impact because I'd have to delay the matching phase. So I was in my company for a while that I did benefit from I was entitled to the benefits of equivalent to full pay on your leave. And moving, I'd then be on the probation period for 6 months, so I wouldn't be able to take my parental leave then. And even after that, I wouldn't be entitled to the full. I'd be on statutory pay, and I think it was a period of 2 years. I'd have to be with a new company. So that was a very big decision. So you started the journey. You've finally been approved, and it was just coincidence. I never reply to messages on LinkedIn, and this was just one where it really sounded really, really interesting. Dropped a thing, and then it escalated, and then got offered a very good, something that I'd really wanted to do, basically. So it was very hard, and in the big scheme of things, obviously playing on my mind was what if the perfect match comes along. But again, being told there are no children in the system, spoke to my social worker, we discussed it, and I thought, you know what, I think I will. and I will, accept the new job. So we put the matching process on hold. Returned back after 6 months. So started beginning of February. So what are we? So May, June 22 was approval. A month into matching towards the end of 2022. So around February 2023 was when I started matching again, because I'd done my 6 months of probation and I could then take my parental leave. Again, similar thing. No, there hasn't been anyone that's been a potential match. I left it about a month and then obviously started. What about Linkmaker? Yeah, let's set you up a profile on there. So set up the profile on there. Filled in my details. Oh, no. You can't say that, you're going to eventually move to a house. No. You can't say that, was what I got told by a social worker. Don't say that. I was like, but that is the plan. And yeah, but it would be seen as, a child who's, obviously been through a lot and is having to move now into your place. And you're basically telling the system that you're going to move again. They won't look at that favorably. I understood the point. Fair enough. So I didn't say that. I was like, yeah, I live in a flat with no garden, with no balcony. It was just a Juliet balcony. Fair enough. But that wasn't the long-term plan. And I wanted whoever was considering me to know that I understand and I appreciate that people do it. And you can raise a child. I'm not saying that, but I recognize, and I had the opportunity to move. That was my intention, was to move to get the space. And the reason I mentioned this was because obviously went through Linkmaker. We can discuss that in detail, but I found a profile of a mixed race child, and it's hard not to attach, isn't it? But you thingy, and I sent my, what do? I forgot what it was called now.
You go through the process, don't you?
You show an interest or whatever it is. Yeah. And basically the reply came one line. Word for word, this is what it said. So rejected. So you couldn't even start the conversation. It was rejected. Child would benefit from outdoor space. And that was it.
Right.
So I went kind of, it's like, well, if they knew that, I was like, yeah, don't take it too hard. I agree. But that was a really frustrating point. It's like, am I going to be rejected with children? Because, all of these, as we discussed, the previous factors of, solo, gay, male, adopter, city centre flat, but let them know that I'm eventually going to hopefully move to a house. So that was a bit frustrating. That was difficult to accept. And you kind of justify it that, okay, maybe there were complex needs and they did read the space immediately, or I don't know, but yeah. But yeah, went on Linkmaker, received a couple of CPRs, child permanence reports through Linkmaker. Difficult read sometimes. Needed some time after that. Went to an adoption picnic, the only one I went to, or hosted by the agency, and that's why I was in tears, laughing. I mean, when the Lost Boys and Fairies, again I've referenced Lost Boys and Fairies, but the scene where they'd get let loose to see the children, and then it's that imaginary scene of them fighting in the chair, and everyone wanted to get in there first. You could feel that in the room. You could just feel that, and I was laughing because it was a beautiful depiction of what it's like. And I walked in, and there was a mixed race gay couple there, and I was like, trumped.
They've stolen your thunder.
It's a bit that, I think is it Modern Family, where's that scene they're sat there and they're going, I think they're trying to get into the school or something, and they go, we've got the trump card here, this and that, and then a lesbian couple walk in with one in the wheelchair, and they go, damn, we've been done again. So that kind of goes through your mind. But went to an adoption picnic, met a young girl, a 1-year-old girl, beautiful, lovely, but very happy, potential shortlisted, received a CPR, read through it. We had a meeting, so they came. So the social worker and the family finder came over to the flat to discuss. But that didn't go, and I won't discuss any further than that, just to not reveal any details. It was a potential, basically, and we just, social worker and myself discussed the potential there. But then my little boy was coming through the adoption process, and my social worker kind of, there's this boy who's just about to receive his placement order. So let's see. We'll be honest with the social worker and the family finder that this is the case. And yeah, he did eventually get his placement order, and then the process started of scheduling the what's it called, where the family finder meets the social workers, the shortlisting meeting.
Yeah.
So I'd been obviously told that I'd be a very good match for this child, mixed race as well. Then I find out the shortlisting meeting had to be postponed because someone couldn't attend. Fair enough. And then I'm up against 4 couples.
Yeah, I mean, it's a torturous experience, isn't it, from start to finish? I'm just conscious of the time. So you kind of obviously you've described him as your boy, so you've given away at the ending.
Yep.
But you then go to matching panel. I mean, you get through the process, and there's like you said, there's the hoops, and and different people have to have their put their stamp on it, and I think you've articulated really well this idea of it. Every step, there's an element of jeopardy, isn't there? There's an element of just got to get through this one, just got to get, like you said, with like the PhD. So you go to matching. What was the experience of like the matching panel?
Matching panel was interesting. So I knew I'd obviously been shortlisted for the child, and they just saw all the strengths in that match. So I emailed the family finder especially when I found out I was up against 4 couples. I kind of went, no, I need to state why I believe I'm a good match here. So from the information that I was given, I did put my case forward. So I emailed the family finder and copied in my social worker to say, this is why I believe I'm a good match. And it was a lot to do with identity, ethnicity, and supporting that. Hopefully that was, one of the reasons why they saw that. I think they saw that even before, and hence why I was shortlisted. And matching panel was just bringing out all of those strengths and recognizing that I would, rely on your support network, or you'd need the support, and it's going to be very intense. So matching panel was very reaffirming. It was very positive that they all felt this was great.
And it's it's a journey from it is you've articulated really well this sense of from whatever a few years earlier you sit and you Google how do you adopt, and then there's so many steps and so many gates and barriers and trips and snares and wrong turns and right turns and then so you're there. You've literally okay, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And how's that?
It's a weird feeling. You build up to it, and you're just excited. I think the excitement overrides anything for me, in my case anyway. Just looking forward to it, and then you are on automatic pilot. I think that's the key phrase. You're on automatic pilot, and I think you're on that automatic pilot, and I've described it in my own words as then the honeymoon period. And then it comes to the stage where there is an end to that honeymoon period, and it's still great, it's still rewarding, but it's tiring.
So
and that's what go on.
I'm intrigued by that idea of like you kind of it is almost like a system sort of kicks in, doesn't it? Go okay, I need to sit back here on Tuesday. We're going to have a meeting about transitions, and it's very much like just do the things. And then so what was it like in terms of first meeting, that transition period, moving in?
Absolutely. It was the support was great. There was a great introduction plan. Foster family, brilliant. So it's a very, very open adoption in terms of birth parents' pictures are on the fridge. We refer to them as tummy mummy, tummy daddy. In touch with the foster family. He had a sleepover at the foster family recently, so we meet up. They came over for the birthday. So foster family were brilliant. I'm happy to share that they were a bit apprehensive with a solo male adopter. I'm not sure they knew sexuality, so I don't think that came into it. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have disclosed that anyway. So it was just more solo male adopter. They just felt they just felt that my little boy had been with them for a while, so they felt that it wasn't the right decision. And that was a kind of a funny meeting. That I was told by social service, can we have a meeting with the foster mum? Just like a Teams call, just so I get to know you and this and that. It's important to win her over because she'll be doing the introductions.
Yeah.
So like, okay. And we had a meeting, and I felt like the out of all the process, that was like an interview, and I was being grilled, and I was sweating, and I asked the social worker and the family finder to stay behind after the call, and I was like, okay, that was a bit intense and a bit weird. Does she have any say? And she's like, no. Rest assured, it's our decision, and this is happening. We just wanted to show her who you were.
Right.
But this is all now in the past, and we can laugh about it because we get on great. And I think once we met and we got on, and obviously she was really, really caring for the little one, and she just wanted the best for him. So I saw that, which was great.
But it's interesting because it's like almost like a bit of a chemistry meeting, isn't it? That that used to getting on is kind of critical to the process, running as smoothly as it can do, because there's enough stress in the process. But if that bit works, it just oils the wheels, doesn't it?
It did, yeah. We did, obviously sent the photo book, sent some videos, and we had a video call. So the first time I saw him live, other than pictures, was on a video call the day before I was going to meet him.
Right.
And then, we arranged obviously to meet outdoors. That's how the plan goes. And driving up, I saw them, him in the pram, and I pulled down my window, and he's pointing, going, that, that's Daddy. So obviously that moment's just special. Excuse me. And we got on great. Introductions were brilliant. It was they say prolonged. It was like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know whether that's too long, or 2 weeks is what they say. I don't know, but we did 2.5, 3 weeks, but we wanted to get it done before Christmas. Right. And he eventually moved in early December, and we kept in touch. We've always kept in touch. We met up, we keep meeting up. Like I said, it's only been 2-3 weeks, and he's had a sleepover there. And I'm sure it will carry on. So we're very open about it, and it's brilliant. I think it's worked really, really well. I never wanted my kid to feel like there's been a cut off or anything like that. So even when he moved in, if he ever mentioned a name from the phone, I was like, shall we call them? Let's have it. As always, smooth and stuff. So I think that's worked really well. So.
And that, I wouldn't say that's unusual, but in terms of your sort of openness and is that because you feel sort of secure in your relationship with your son?
Absolutely. I think we if we would have known, I think if there was a need to change tact, or if it was affecting him emotionally or anything, but he's settled in. I think the introductions went brilliantly. If just on the feedback I've received from social services, and it's like, we're not concerned. Like we sorry if we're not keeping in touch. And I was like, we don't want to, be overbearing or anything, but we don't see the need. We don't see the need. And it's, they come in. I think, I remember we did have a review meeting. Obviously, they all came to the flats. And we all sat down the table, and they were asking how it was going, and it was positive and positive and positive and positive. I had nothing. There was nothing to share that was negative. And it was like they were fishing for, it's like they're all used to sitting there going, there's something, he's lying. There's something. And I was like, I wish there was something. It's going incredibly well. And it did. So just so grateful for that.
It sounds really positive, and a lot of people, a lot of people have there's a lot of people have lots of different experiences, isn't there? It's an intense moment. It's a big moment in your life, and so that transition to them, there's that final day where you sort of say goodbye and you move in. How is that sort of sense of it's you and your boy, and you're a family?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was. I remember it obviously vividly, and it's a lot of it's tension. It's you're on edge. Just want everything to run smooth. The focus is all about him, and I felt it finally. Thing is putting him to bed. That was the big thing. Obviously, it's the first night he stays, so putting him to bed. I had a plan, and it was. I now know it was. If I was to put it bluntly, it was knacker him out. The plan basically said that, because I shared it. And it was knacker him out. My thing was no thinking, just let's have fun. And that's what we did. We went out, we had fun, we did everything, come back, excitement, put him to bed. And he was one to, you put to bed, and he was in that with the foster family is right, bedtime, good night, close the door. That's it. And that's what I did at the foster family's home.
Right.
That's what we did. So obviously you get to putting them to bed towards the latter stages of introductions. And that's what we did. And I tried that on the first night. I was like, fingers crossed, close the door, fingers crossed, it works. And he did sort of kind of cry a bit. So I obviously went back in, sat by the edge of the bed, or sat on a stool by the edge of it. I was like, I'm here, it's okay. And I think it took about 5 minutes and he was knackered. So he eventually fell asleep. Right. Second night, very similar, but it only took me a minute. And then third night, I made a point of closing the door and making a noise that the door's closed now. And he did go to sleep. And then it's been plain sailing since. So yeah, wow. And he sleeps all night. So yeah, and I'm going to come, I know we're conscious of time. I will come to, it's not all, what's the word? It's not, what's the phrase? It's all bells and whistles, or it's not all, what's the phrase? What is it?
Rainbows and unicorns.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. That's a beautiful phrase. Yeah, it is not all that, but I've been lucky, I think, in that. Yeah, he does sleep all night and he eats like a dream. So everyone I've sold to, how are you managing? No, that's another thing. Everyone I met and support, how are you coping? How are you coping? How are you coping? I was like, well, everyone stop asking me. Coping is such a negative word. Stop saying how you coping. It's like, how are you doing? I was like, we're thriving. It's brilliant. Stop using the word coping. Please. It's not coping. I'm loving it. It's great. So please don't use the word coping. And it is great. It has been great. He does sleep all night, so I'm lucky with that. Thank you, Foster. And he does eat like a dream. So, and every parent I've met, I've gone, that's half the battle. So the rest is easy.
So catch me up with in terms of your job, and because I presume you took some adoption leave, but also your house as well. So how did that unpick, and how does that all fit into the kind of the? Yeah.
So obviously because he settled in so well, I thought this could happen a lot sooner than I thought, and I started considering places to move, and yeah, eventually found a place. I didn't even know if I could actually move. I contacted social workers. I was like, could I move? It's like obviously you have to wait till the adoption order, but if you have to move, you move. It's your choice. It's obviously be conscious of the period, and everyone knew he was doing so well, and luckily the place I found we could do a long transition. So it wasn't stopping. I was very adamant it's not going to be pick up and move. It was a 2-month overlap. So I was fortunate in that sense. It was a very long 2-month overlap, moving things slowly, getting him used to the place, decorating the bedroom. Where are we taking this today? Oh, we're taking it to the new home. And funnily enough, we still refer to this as the new home and the old place as our home. So yeah, we go and visit the old place sometimes because, I've got a friend living there now. So we go and visit and we're going to our home and this is the new home. I was like, can we just call this home now, please? But no, it's new home. So that happened with the house. So we eventually moved to a house, and the space is needed. The space was needed because he is a very, very energetic boy. Very energetic boy. But in terms of work-wise, yes, went on adoption leave, worked very, very supportive, which was brilliant. I did decide on, I think I said I'm definitely taking 10 months. But then he started nursery. So 2 days a week. So when he went back 2 days a week, I decided to go back part-time for those 2.5 days and work again. We're flexible. So on the Wednesday, I'll be working from home with the little one here. And went back part-time. And then when September came around and obviously preschool, he's going in 5 days a week to preschool. So I've moved back to full-time. And it's an interesting point because that leads on nicely to how tiring it is. It's tiring. It is. People say it, oh, you're mad, you're crazy. It's how are you doing it and how you think. But I think I mentioned 2 phrases. One is you're on autopilot or you're in auto drive when it happens and the excitement, and then it's the honeymoon period. You're on autopilot during prepping, getting everything ready, creating a photo book, getting the things done, doing introductions. You're being told what to do, so that's easy. But then move-in date happens, and that's then honeymoon period. You're on just, emotions are through the roof, and you're just, you're on honeymoon period. Lasted, I think, 6-7 months, and it still is. But I think September was the real. This is life now. Yeah, full-time work, full-time thing, school runs, and everything just it begins. It's been going, but it is very tiring. And you feel that, but I think the way I summarize it is it's more the rewarding aspect is more than the tiring aspect. But it's no, I'm not here to paint a picture that it's all beautiful and thing. It is tiring, and it's 5 a.m. wake ups and stuff like that. But yeah.
No, but it's interesting, like you said, that there is a sense of all of those unusual aspects, like the adoption leave comes to an end, you move into your sort of forever home, you go back to work, he starts in preschool, and it's sort of, I say this in inverted commas, it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of this, right, okay, this is normal. And so, like you said, the pros outweigh the cons, which is what we hope for all parents.
And I think what's helped is recognizing that I always kind of go back. This is, sometimes it's really, really tough. The way I say it to myself anyway is it's temporary, because soon he's going to be of an age where it'll be, he doesn't want to spend any more time at home. So that helps me get through it.
Yeah.
Is that it's not like this it's not going to be like this every single day till I'm 70. It's, this is temporary. So cherish it. And then that rationalizing it does get me through it. And yeah, just make the most of it, because soon, and other parents tell me this, and I see it. That's the thing. So I see it with my nibblings, my nephew and nieces, and I see it with my goddaughter and stuff that, they're of the age where they finish school and they're begging to go play with their classmates. They don't want to come home for some reason. Whereas they're coming home, they've got mates coming with them, or, they're independent, as all parents, they get to an age where they're independent. So once that starts, that's it. So yes, it's tiring now, but I know it's not going to be like this forever. So that helps. But I wish I did know that, I think, when I started the journey. And the other thing I've noticed is when you're a solo adopter, it's just you two. There's no one there to capture the moments. And I'm not a big grab the camera, take a picture. Like my social media, which is kind of obviously private and stuff, is there's only like 3-4 posts a year.
Right.
So I'm not one. It's just like a special occasion or something where someone's grabbed a nice picture or something. But I've made a point of, I've realized memories are important, especially in terms of life book and life stories. So I've made a point of getting the camera out, and I feel silly for doing it because it's not natural. It's not within me to do that.
Yeah.
But I've trained myself to do that, and I've taken the pictures, and I've started a digital life story, which is like a private, closed Instagram where a few people follow. Oh, that's another thing, is that obviously people do ask, don't they? How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And you're sharing.
Yeah.
You end up, anytime you do get a second to yourself, or as soon as he goes to bed, you sit down and then you catching up with all your messages and your WhatsApp and so I just thought, stop that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not sharing, thing. I'm just going to create a private social. Oh, I didn't tell social services that. I will do, but maybe not. But I didn't tell them. But it's private anyway. So
so it's not social media, is it?
No, it's a private account, and only family and friends, kind of people I know, approve, and I don't follow anyone else off that account. But then that's his digital life story, basically. From the first picture is the day we met, and then all the way through. So I just post on there now, and then that makes it easier. So I don't have to keep sharing and stuff like that. So yeah.
So can I take you right back to this? I've got this in my mind's eye. I've got this image of you sort of sitting down with your laptop going, adoption. Or this person who sat on the settee and said, all I need is a lamp. Actually, all right, I could be a family now. I can create a family.
Lamp or child, cake or death.
Lamp or child, yeah. Come back when he's 15. No, that's a terrible stereotype. Is this what you'd hoped for? Does this tick the box?
Yeah, and absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I just wish. Again, I'll cut to it straight away. I hope maybe that's what you were asking, or I'll just add something to this. Is I wish I'd seen more cases of that when I started to make it. I think I was, it was going into the unknown. But if you see that, it is possible. It is, it's achievable and it's possible. But yeah, it is what I'd hoped for, and yeah, currently living through it.
Excellent.
I might get back in touch in 2 years. No, I'm joking.
Well, you might, with 6 children. But it is interesting, isn't it? Because I was thinking all the way along the journey, it remains quite culturally unusual for dads to raise kids on their own. And so you are swimming against the tide. And do you get any sort of pushback against that in
No, there are the odd, the comments at school. I went for a second-hand uniform sale once, and I was obviously on the WhatsApp group, and someone said, "Oh, was it you that I was chatting to, your wife?" Thingy, and I thought, right, pick your battles. It's too early in the morning. Not battle. It's not a battle, but it's just mentally preparing for those questions where it hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for someone to ask the little one in front of me, "Where's your mum?" And I have to decide how to respond to that. Do I want to be cheeky and just passive, or go to the little one and go, "Oh, so we've talked about that question, haven't we?" And it's it's better to say, "Where's your grown up?" Or there are different types of families, so you might not necessarily have a mum. So how shall we tackle it this time? But I've not yet been on the receiving end of that question. But I think it depends on the context, and I am one that it does depend on the context. It depends on how people ask and when people ask and what type of question it is. So, but there's only been a couple of instances so far, but I'm sure there's plenty to come. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's like you said, you can't anticipate, and usually those questions come at the least expected moment, and so you kind of and it's 3 hours later the right answer appears.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So.
But it's been wonderful to talk to you, and I really appreciate you. You've been so honest, and you've given a really clear window into your experience, and I think you've articulated that process of being approved really, really well in terms of some of the challenges and all of the stuff that's kind of going around your head. So you are more than welcome to come back on in a couple of years and tell us how you're getting on.
Absolutely. Why not? Yeah, and just thank you both to both of you for the podcast. I think it's brilliant. I know a lot of episodes, and I've listened to them, laughed, and felt a lot through them. So yeah, it's definitely helped my relationship with professionals, birth family, foster family. Yeah. So
that's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much, and look after yourself.
Thank you.